Brian, I just realized how much you have leveled up in life because I always want to cover my bald head for videos,
Nice.
but I can't wear a hat while wearing headphones. I just need to get a beanie.
You rock the
You
beanie.
sir,
You
are
rock.
you are older and therefore
Wiser.
all knowing.
Also more attractive.
all-
Beanie at my desk. Don't get this video claimed right now.
Rocket Man burning down the streets of Paramount. I don't know the words.
I'd love to say I was a good enough singer to get that claimed.
Oh man, like I was singing, I did. There was the like he's going the distance. He's going the distance. Dun 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 dun. So it's like engines pumping and thumping in time. The green lamp flashes, the flags go up and churning and burning. He yearns for the cup. He dastardly maneuvers and muscles for rank. Fuel's pouring fast on an empty tank. Reckless and wild, he pours for the turns in his engine opponent and secretly sterns. And the arena is empty except for one man still driving and striving as fast as he can. So I start singing this, right? And I'm like, I'm probably going to get claimed. And literally, like, there was somebody's like, did you just like freestyle that? And I thought for a moment, oh my God, I could be famous. Like I could just tell, like, yeah,
Yes.
did you know? Like I'm just freestyling it to some
Yes.
cake. So, but I gave proper credit to where it is.
You're like that movie that was like where no one remembers who the Beatles is, and this one kid's just like, I'm just playing covers and I'm super famous now.
Exactly. It's like all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, nobody knows who Cake is? This is going to be amazing. And in fact, if it doesn't get claimed, then I know even the record companies have completely forgotten. I'm going to blow some people's minds in 2020. And speaking of that, welcome everybody to the Casually Hardcore Podcast. My name's Brian. We've got Chris over here. We've got Taylor coming back. We started the podcast, 2019, kicking it off with Taylor, talking about games that we were excited about for 2019. We're wrapping it up with Game of the Year with Taylor as well. Taylor, tell people where they can find you. What have you been up to, good sir?
Well, you can currently find me in my water heater closet, which is where I now record everything that I do audio-wise. My water heater's right there.
And
My
your
liquor's right there.
Alcohol.
But all you see is this. So you can find me on the old interwebs, fortecatholic.com, Forte Catholic. That has social links and everything else that I do.
So this is going to be obviously just a real fun and kind of loosey-goosey kind of podcast. We have an outline. We'll see if we follow it. Chris, dude, man, 2019, like a part of me just want to say this year sucks, but there's been some really great games this year alone. And we've had some amazing guests on the podcast. We had Mione, we had Skill Up, we've had Taylor, we've had John. I mean, it's like I could just go on and on and on. What are you thinking, sir? What have you been doing?
I mean, 2019 has had a lot of drama. It's had a lot of animosity, especially in like the gap between, say, like YouTubers and mainstream media. So we've definitely felt that tension. But overall, we've had a lot of good games. Like it really wasn't that bad of a year as I started to look back. We've had some pretty incredible, groundbreaking things happen. I mean, we had WoW Classic drop. We had. Did we get Shadowbringers this year? Like 2019 feels like it's forever long. When I look back, I was like, that can't just be this year. I've been playing it so much. I mean, you look at everything going on with like Death Stranding, Outer Worlds. I mean, there has been some genre-shattering moments over the year. And I set the outline. I just pulled the stuff from the Game of the Year nominations, which at the time of this recording is we'll find out who wins tomorrow. But I look at these nominations and like I don't see how you could sum this year up in 5 of anything.
So let's
It's just
try.
been too much.
so now that he said
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. So let's do this, guys. Obviously, like we talked earlier, like offline about kind of disappointments of the year. Anthem was one of the games we were so excited about. And yeah, that kind of fell flat. I remember when Taylor, you beat that. You called me. We were talking, and you're like, "Well, Okay, but now it looks like that's something that might even recover. So one of the games of the year,
It won't.
but one of the games that's for nomination of the year, just as an example, is No Man's Sky. Under the VR AR category, they released their Beyond update this year, and so I'm really interested to see what ultimately it comes down to. Have you played anybody here besides me play any VR or AR games this year?
No, I'm too poor.
Chris?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've done some Beat Saber because that's obligatory, but that's about it.
Yeah, out of the categories that they have listed, the Asheron's Wrath, Blood of Truth, Beat Saber, No Man's Sky, and Trover Saves the Universe. The game that I've played out of that entire category is Beat Saber.
Yeah.
And extensively, it's really a great experience, but the problem I personally have with VR ends up being its isolation metric. I'm a very social gamer. I play games that are very multiplayer focused, but when I put on the headset, you kind of, like you can't do that downstairs when babies are crawling around. So I put out a video on that this year alone. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of an interesting note. I'm going to start with Taylor. You've played a lot of games this year. From the games that you were excited about going into 2019 to the games that, like, ultimately that you felt, were you right in any cases? We were all wrong about Anthem, but like, was there any game that you remember that you were like really excited about that really had that payoff?
Yeah, Anthem was on my list, didn't work. I remember Siege being on my list because around this time at the beginning of the year, I was still relatively new to Siege, and now I've played it for like 300 hours. So
yeah,
like,
you've been playing that every week or something like that.
Yeah, we play every Monday with a group of friends, and then I've just been playing on my own throughout the week. It is my biggest go-to game, but so that's like, it was up for like ongoing game of the year. It's absolutely mine. But there are two that were on my list whenever we came at the beginning of the year that still stayed in my top 5, and one of them is my top one, which is Jedi Fallen Order and Gears 5. Like those two, for me, delivered, because like I know a lot of people didn't like Gears. They're not liking like the longevity of Gears 5 multiplayer. They've even like, I don't really care because I'm not there for the multiplayer. I was there for the story, and Jedi Fallen Order was the story and the combat. Like those two games absolutely delivered for me.
Chris, how about you?
I mean, 2019 Shadowbringers has destroyed all of my expectations for the year. It's been great to watch all the other genres doing well, and I've watched a ton of stuff streamed. But WoW Classic and Shadowbringers are the big favorite like gaming moments of the year for me. They've taken up the most of my time, and they've taken up the most of my energy to like watch them and pay attention to them and watch streams of them. And they've had highs and even higher highs. Like I really like their lowest moments are still what I think, games like Anthem could only dream of hitting. Mm-hmm. It's my biggest critiques of Shadowbringers. Like, couldn't it be even better? Like it's not. I really can't. Any one category, like you would have to take a piece so far out of context to truly be like fully upset. It's like, oh, I don't like how this happened, but then all this other good stuff came with it, even within an individual patch or something. That's been pretty incredible. But I would say, since we kind of blew right over it, if you guys didn't see our last podcast with Leone, speaking of Final Fantasy, that was awesome. Had a great time. And then I want to go ahead and say thanks for our partnership with Shadow PC, which I have been using a ton lately for a project that I'm working on. It'll probably roll out in the spring. It's a longer term project. And I've been spending a ton of time with my Shadow PC. It's been incredible, even just as an editor, because then I can have my Adobe up and my capture software up, and my main PC, which is a powerhouse, can dedicate all 64 gig of RAM to things there, and my graphics card there, and then I can have my Shadow PC running my game. It's been wonderful, and the ability to log in from like my laptop on the couch and just pick it up, it's been great. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, thanks for helping keep the lights on here, Chris, as I just get into it. So Brian's wrapping cake so that the podcast gets claimed, so we got to get paid some way. Mm-hmm. So beyond that though, I think for me, like when we talk about kind of like just a favorite game in and of itself, I really kind of default to what I spend more time playing with my family and the kids. Halo is one of the games that I think has just been really prevalent. Halo 5, because we've been playing that on Wednesday nights. I haven't been able to make it the last couple of weeks. We made it last week, which was fun. Obviously, due with the baby. But what I've really been diving in is Halo and Pokemon. Pokemon kind of, I know there's some drama around the game with Dexit. But as a parent, and as a parent like who's watching his kids,
Dexit. I hadn't heard it in that term. I know what's going on, but I hadn't heard Dexit. That's really funny.
Thanks. I didn't make it up, but I'll claim it. Well, I'm a comedian. The with that and with it though is that watching my kids experience it for the first time in and of itself, it's like when I put myself into that, wow, this is incredible, as opposed to like, oh, I've been playing the same game for 20 years. That mindset is just really positive, and actually it really has made the last couple of months nice, because downstairs helping you with the kids cheer like, we got the Pokemon. So it's ultimately as far as gaming of the year, we're going to dive into the different categories that we've got listed. Let me ask one more question before we go into just the whole piece of it. Favorite gaming moment of 2019, right? Because it's beyond a specific game. A lot has happened. And I'm just curious, Taylor, what out of all of this last year, what is your favorite gaming moment?
It's funny, you just transitioned into it perfectly, and I realized this last night when I was thinking about what were my favorite moments and my favorite games. My favorite moments have been in a game that is absolutely terrible. We, as a family, for the last 5-6 months, have spent multiple hours a week as a family going to parks, driving places to go play Pokemon Go. And we are having so much fun. Obviously the game came out years ago. It was terrible, but it's one of those things that all the things that they promised the game would be on day one, it wasn't for 3 years. And yet now it is. My son's 6 years old. He absolutely loves it. So my best gaming moments are being in a park with we have a park here that's 500 people will be there on community days. And we're beating raids, and my son going, we got Articuno, and it's I experienced that same thing 23 years ago. It's been really cool for me with this dumb game that's all about doing this. We've absolutely loved it as a family. It has taken over days at our house where we hear from a friend that there's a raid 15 minutes from here. We all get in the car, drive, go. It's been so much fun for us as a family.
Chris, how about you? 2019 favorite moment?
I mean, what I look back on the year as a whole is I would probably cherish the amount of time I've gotten to spend laughing with my brothers. That's ultimately what got me into gaming, and that's what's been a big passion. And so playing Classic with them and playing Halo with them has been what has defined the year for me as a gaming experience. As just what's brought a lot of joy into games that I have fun on my own, but just the laughter, where tears are streaming down your face and you're just smiling for hours after you shut the game off. That's been what this year's really had different than years past, is I feel like I've gotten to spend a lot more time with my brothers. But an individual moment I would have to say is going into the last boss fight of the 5.0 content for Shadowbringers. I haven't had that emotional connection to a game in probably close to 10 years. It just shook. I just remember feeling excitement and nervousness, and if I had a second set of hands to grip the armrest on my chair instead of just the keyboard and mouse, it was awesome. And I think that it's probably shaped a lot of why I've been so fond of Shadowbringers, and why I can just look at the game, and even when there's areas I wish they made a different decision, I just am immediately okay with saying, yeah, but in the context of everything else, it's still an incredible game, because that moment is something that I will owe Square Enix a huge thank you for years to come.
Yeah. I think when we look at this last year, what was really special, I think, was when we got to go out to BlizzCon this year, and this November, which was something that I have always kind of wanted to do. And at the same time, there was a lot of drama leading up to it. So it's when we look at 2019, it feels like it's filled with drama. And I think that in 5 years and then 10 years, we're going to look back and be we're going to forget just how maybe contentious it was. There just seems to be a lot of drama. And I think that there's plenty of reason and that people can be upset. There's plenty of things to be upset. and it can easily drown out the positive things. But then getting to go, out to and hang out with like you, Chris, and hang out with the rest of the Elitist Jerks community, and get to go walk around BlizzCon and get to go play Diablo 4 and get to go experience that, especially in context of that, knowing that, Yoshi P and Final Fantasy and Shadowbringers, like their close relationships and more, to kind of see what else other people are doing in that regards. But it was a truly interesting event to be a part of, going there. And then it also kind of was enlightening in a way. In the way that, like, when we were there and the experience we were having and the experience that we were witnessing and the people that we were talking with, and then we would be able to kind of pull up the phone and see, like, kind of the YouTube videos and how, like, they weren't truthful. Like, what people were saying on YouTube didn't reflect, like, the reality of what was actually happening. And maybe it was just my reality of what was happening out there. But it was just interesting to see, like, that there is this kind of perception in this narrative that it's easy to kind of play into out there. And so I thought that was kind of interesting and enlightening to kind of say, like, we'll continue to double our efforts in communicating and just trying to love, like, gamers for that, to say, like, yeah, that sucks, like Drexit sucks and all that. Dexit sucks, not Drexit. But there's still, like, joy and fun to be had. So I think for me, like, it kind of really was a great time to be out there, and also just meet so many different interesting people with different perspectives and have, like, really great conversations around video games, all in all. So does anybody have any other moment or anything, because it doesn't have to be your favorite moment, is there any before we move into kind of different categories of games and ranking them ourselves?
I think we'll get to talk a lot more, because I don't think any of us played all of these.
No, we haven't. And that's the biggest thing. Like, I look at it, I'm like, man, like, I wish I had more time to play, like, these different games. And so like, we did the kind of the VR AR as we went into the year. I've only played Beat Saber, and then I'm like, okay, well, it's cool that that's starting to become a category. Half-Life Alex is coming out next year, and so the question is that will VR reach this kind of, like, big pivotal point, or will it remain kind of this really enthusiastic market in and of itself? Being that nobody here played VR, let's jump into our strategy games of the year, if everybody is ready to buckle up for that. You have Age of Wonders, Planetfall, a Neo 1800, the Fire Emblem Three Houses, Total War, Three Kingdoms, Tropico 6, and Wargrove. Gentlemen, the vote is yours. Even if you haven't played them, your power lies in selecting a winner. We're gonna obviously know the winners tomorrow when the Game Awards go live. So you can either say, like, this is what I want to win, or this is what I think will end up winning. Taylor.
So I haven't played any of them, but there's one game on here that is literally my most desired game right now, which is Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
I love the Fire Emblem series. I've got a ton of my friends that are playing it. I just kept waiting, like, on, like, Black Friday for it to go on sale. I'm just waiting for the Christmas sale. I'm just waiting for it.
Nintendo games don't go on sale.
They do. So a lot of the big ones don't. But I really want to play it, and whether it goes on sale or not, I'll probably be buying it for Christmas break and playing it over then.
Chris, how about you, man?
I mean, I've watched a lot of content around these. I didn't get to as many games this year as I would have liked, and as I've looked towards 2020, the things I want to achieve, I'll probably get to even less titles. Is just the honest answer with my time. Like, I would love to say, like, oh, I'm going to do all these things, but you have to just do the math, and you're like, wow, I booked out 40 hours a day for the next year. That seems unlikely. Mm-hmm. But I've always admired Anno 1800 and Tropico 6 out of that category. I think Tropico 6 is probably the one that's the most fun to watch people play. So that would probably be where I believe I did vote on this. So I believe that's where I put my vote.
I'm gonna have to go with Fire Emblem, just like with Taylor, because it's like it's one of the games that's been on my my to buy list and play, and it's one of the games that I actually was really excited about, but I ended up just diving in hard with Dragon Quest Builders 2 and Shadowbringers. So it's like, as I'm playing these other games. But I would say I kind of a secondary nature to Total War Three Kingdoms. I remember playing the Three Kingdoms series a lot as a kid, and so that's something that would be also fascinating. I'm a fan of strategy games. The problem ends up being, like, they kind of fall a little bit lower down the list. Like, if it ends up being, like, I want to play a fighter or a racer, like strategy games or something, where if I'm going on a trip, that's a game that I really like to play, but it's one that when I'm at my house, I have a hard time, like, let me boot up that strategy game. I don't know why.
Yeah. Did you sit down and watch any of the StarCraft 2 stuff at BlizzCon?
Not any of the panels, no, but yeah. I saw
No, the tournament, the championship.
Oh yeah, that was really exciting.
It's interesting to see, like, RTS is just one of those categories that people feel is kind of on its way out. They say the same thing about MMOs. And so it'd be interesting to see kind of what that genre needs to do to kind of shake it up so that it can come back to its prominence. Because, like, you think back and, like, StarCraft 2 for a while there was just, like, the game.
Well, when people say game, like, on that note, I don't think really games die as long as, like, innovation and people are willing to play. There's, I think, a market for them. The question is that how does that market shift and evolve to reach the most amount of players? I think 2019 and just even 2018 alone has been dominated by 2 to 3 games: Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite. And the reason it's been dominated by that, I think the algorithms that kind of rule our lives in a way have been pushing those content. People are interested in watching it, so more people are interested in watching it. I think that we could easily see strategy games and things like that come into prominence, but there's got to be something that happens alongside that. And I think right now what you see is companies maybe a little timid to invest in it because right now everything's kind of battle royale. But we're also seeing that eventually that's just going to kind of even itself out and become like another really good game genre. I think it's technology that's going to help reinvigorate MMOs, strategy games, and stuff like that. You know, as we see, like, now a new generation of technology and making new things possible that have not been possible yet could easily bring more people into, like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. Because it wasn't, because devs were restricted. They might have, like, imagine, like, I want 1,000 armies on, you know, battling each other. Not possible today, but maybe that will be tomorrow. And so that's where I think, I don't think any of these things die. I think they go in kind of into hibernation and waiting kind of for that next great, you know, hit. And then when that does hit, then you'll see, like, you know, the crowd will follow. It's going to take somebody to be brave, take a risk, try something new out, but we'll ultimately have to see. Any thoughts on strategy games, Taylor, before we jump into our racing?
It's weird because as y'all were, you know, I think we're all in the same boat that we did not play as many of these games. As I was looking at my list of, like, the best games that I played this year, most of them were 2018 titles, 2017 titles, 2016 titles. So, like, literally 3 weeks ago, I just beat Mario and Rabbids.
Nice.
And, like, it's like, and I laughed when you said it's the game I play when I travel, because I traveled to my parents' house for Thanksgiving break, and I essentially went from World 1 to the end while I was there, and I just got hooked and I got my teeth into it. So now all I want to do is play another, like, silly Mario and Rabbids game, and I really want them to come out with that tomorrow.
All right, let's make it happen, Internet. For our sports racing category, and you're actually real right, just on a note for that, is that if you really want to save money as a gamer, play the previous games years. Like, just be 1 year behind the trend, and you will have a great experience. You won't be a part of that conversation.
I'm loving it.
Well, and then Chris had a thing talking about, like, he's just watching Breaking Bad, and it's like nobody cares that he's now watching it because you're not kind of a part of that. So there is this sense of being a part of, like, the year and what's happening and that excitement, but then there's also the sense of, like, you go 1 year behind that and you're like, this is great. Thanks for figuring it all out. And now I'm just going to get everything for $5 and just have a heck of a good time. So for sports racing categories, we got Crash Team Racing, Nitro Fueled, Dirt Rally 2.0, Evolution Football Pro, Evolution Soccer. I was like, what? They put that thing in
eFootball Pro.
Yeah, I know. I was like, it looks like E and F together. My eyes might be getting old. F1 2019, and I think obligatory FIFA 20. Like,
you have to put FIFA in there. You can't make this category without FIFA. It makes like $1 billion a year, maybe more than $1 billion.
Yeah, that's just nuts, dude. So for sports, anybody here a sports fan in the video game genre? I actually am, but I'm curious as to your thoughts.
I'm following this NCAA stuff because I'm incredibly intrigued to see if the players getting paid changes the way those games get out there. So, like, just as a conversation that started in 2019, that's a huge door opening that could drastically change the way college sports work and the way gaming works. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's going to change it. It's going to have a huge impact. But I would say in this category, like, I was so bummed not to see Forza Horizon put on there because was that just not out in 2019?
That
Like
came
that's
out
I
last
started
year,
playing
but
it
they've had
because of Game
updates.
Pass.
They've had updates,
and like the
yeah.
updates have been huge and incredible, and I have had a blast. I have spent hours that I should have been doing things more productive on that game.
It doesn't have, our
Fantastic.
vote also, just for people watching, it doesn't actually have to be a game from this year. I'm just going to tell you what people are voting on.
Oh,
and you
Forza
can vote for
Horizon
anything you want.
takes this category for me.
Yeah.
So a numbers, we'll put that in the 6th slot. That's the game that I think really did a great job providing to its base and being a great racing game just for the sake of it.
They had the Lego update this year for Horizon, so it's like, here's the stuff, and it's like, I love what they do there. And so,
I've been playing with your brother.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we've gotten to play. Like, I love that. Taylor, out of this category or any game out there, with sports racing.
I'm remembering Chris getting mad at me for how my avatar drives with him playing Forza Horizon.
Oh, your avatar is such a dick. Like, I was like, does it learn from actual players? What I was bummed to find out was Brian's brother, like, his avatar always drives this like crazy big like monster truck. In anytime you get into a 4x4 race, and I'm like, what is that car? And I have it now, and I was like, that car is insane. It just pushes you off the road. And then I asked him about it, and it doesn't pull from his library.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, that is
I wish
such a
it pulled from
bummer.
his library. I wish it pulled from your library, because then helps you go and chase that. It's like, yeah, dude, I got that, and this one, and you should totally.
Because they can scale the car, so they can take his crappy car and make it your racing level or whatever. They can make a crappy, like. It's a simulation game. Just make it happen.
Sports racing, Taylor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't play any of these. I think I might have even said on the last podcast, I grew up only playing sports games. So now, like, I've graduated. Like, I'm not playing them anymore. Like, I did play some Forza, but that was last year. The one for me that was special this year, again, isn't on this list and wasn't this year, is MLB The Show, because I just got a PlayStation 4 for the first time. So I got to play a baseball game for the first time in 8 years.
I was like, how is MLB The Show not on the list? That's exactly what I was about to transition into, because like if I was going to default to sports games, like what Chris said, NCAA, like, well, I guess I'm not playing football. I don't get the Madden games. It's just never been that appealing. Pro football has never been appealing, but NCAA football for me has always been interesting, and that went away. Because they were ripping off, like they basically were exploiting the kids, and they have been, and so the ruling of California is really interesting. Ultimately, I hope that leads back to NCAA coming back as a game and as a franchise, because I think that is way more interesting and way more fun as a football game than anything else. But then MLB The Show, I was like, there's no baseball game on here, and if you guys haven't seen the news, PlayStation's bringing MLB The Show to PC and Xbox. And
right after I bought a PlayStation to play that as one of the 3 games.
So I love MLB The Show and baseball, and so I haven't had one since like my PlayStation died, and it's like when I saw that coming in 2021, that makes me so thrilled, because that is always been the premier baseball game, and so I don't have any ambition of covering it on the channel, but I do have some. I'm really looking forward to kind of building out my team nowadays, because back in the day, like it's been so long since I really dove into a sports game specifically. Back when I remember where it's like, yeah, your game save literally is going to take up your entire memory card. Like you have a memory card for that game. Now it's like we've got big harder drives, and so I'm like, oh man, I really want to like dive into a great baseball game, or even an arcade baseball game. I felt like baseball has been severely underrepresented these last 7 years. Like for the story, for those who don't know, Major League Baseball basically took back the license, and they have been trying to build their own internal baseball game. They tried to make their own studio, and it has not worked. And so I think eventually they're just saying like, okay, please, just like how EA owns football and Madden, they took that away from. I don't like that. I wish there was more competition in the sports sector, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Yeah, Madden has become a worse game every year that they have not had competition.
Oh yeah, hands down. That's why the Star Wars game that you were talking about earlier is such a really nice thing to kind of have it, because EA did the like, give me the Star Wars license, and they were like, okay, those Star Wars games are coming out, and now finally, like, a good one comes out. We've had to wait, like, they've had that license for a long time.
Long have I waited.
I would give this, my vote would go to MLB The Show, hands down, for sports game of the year, followed by for Horizon, because again, I don't care what year you were released. This is what I love from this year, and it could be easy for any game from any year around. So, score and music. Another insult, in my opinion, to a great game, not including it here on the list. We've got Cadence of Hyrule, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Kingdom Hearts 3, and Sonora Wild Hearts. What do you think, Chris? I think you might be thinking what I'm thinking, but I don't know.
So I voted for Cadence of Hyrule because it was a super classy move. They took Crypt of the Necrodancer, and they actually took care of the original devs and basically brought that in. Is kind of my understanding of that story. It's an incredibly fun game to play. Crypt of the Necrodancer's incredibly fun to play. I just think that was an incredibly inventive use of music. And so like it wasn't the music itself being amazing, it was just the use of music. But then since I voted, I got a chance to play Death Stranding, and the music score is incredible. Like it is visceral, it is immersive, and like my only regret is I was playing it with a friend in his living room, so I didn't have like a big set of like over-the-ear headphones, because I think if I did, like my house could be on fire and I just wouldn't know. Like it just brings you so far into that game. That game is a total like mind screw, like from the get-go. And if you go watch, like they have somebody upload to YouTube like all the cutscenes without any gameplay, it's like 11 and a half hours. So it is an incredibly narrative driven game, but I think it was an insult to the category to not put Shadowbringers on there. Shadowbringers was possibly the best MMO music score, if not one of the best gaming music scores like we'll get in this decade. And so for them not to let them have it the year it comes out feels ridiculous. I didn't play Devil May Cry 5. I watched Kingdom Hearts 3 but didn't play it. And I didn't play Serenera Wild Hearts.
Taylor.
The best score of all time came out in the 1970s, and there was a game built around that product from the 1970s. Star Wars has got to take the Star Wars music for me. Like it's one of the only like scores that will make me tear up because they just match it so perfectly with what's going on, like on the screen in the movies and in the shows and the games. And I've just been so immersed in Star Wars content period this year. And like, there are a few special moments in that game, a lot in the end game. So I won't talk about it, but it's like scores come back, you recognize things. And it's just like, it was really special. Like gave me goosebumps, maybe tear up, like that sort of thing. Like
is it eligible to be nominated next year because it came out after
it's
this selection?
It's eligible for next year. It's
Gotcha.
Star Wars is not on any of this list due to I guess the cutoff. So I think it runs from like December to December. So Smash is on this list, and Smash came out last December. So I think you'll see Star Wars as a part of the nomination. The challenge is though is that the excitement also can kind of deal with that, because you're talking about Death Stranding. Death Stranding is such a wide, like there's such a wide range of people who have such strong opinions on it. Like it's like really either a game of the year or like how could this even be considered to be a nominated game of the year. Having not heard it, that's actually really high praise. It's one of the games like I know when it's coming to PC, my thought is like I'm going to play it when it comes to PC because I do enjoy his work. Like I've always really enjoyed his work, and I'm interested to see how that plays out here. I think it's coming like summer for PC. I would honestly say, like, I agree with Chris. Where's Shadowbringers? Just like how Taylor's talking about Star Wars, like the music within Final Fantasy XIV has such a deep. It's so rooted into. I feel like who I am almost as a human being. I've really appreciated that, and Soken builds off that of a genius, and he is himself a genius. And it's like these, like when you look at just that, like Square Enix is lucky to have him, and not having it nominated for music just seems like a real like I guess ignorance is probably where it comes from. Is that whoever's like, hey, let's do this. Like
it can't be an MMO. It's just an expansion.
It has to be. Like I think they got like that's where I would say my vote would easily go for Shadowbringers. Now on that note, while I would say that Star Wars isn't as like I'm more of a Star Trek guy, but Star Wars isn't like when I've seen and I'm really excited because like I'm hoping that I can get the Star Wars game for Christmas. I'm really excited about actually playing that game. But from what I've seen, it's like they nailed the audio. Like if you just close your eyes, and just listen to the Star Wars Fallen Order, you're like. I'm in a movie. Like I'm watching the Star Wars movie, and that's something that is so freaking incredible that they've delivered.
There's a moment like right at the beginning of the game, and I can talk about it because if you see the trailer, you've seen it. There's a moment that I watched it on TV in the trailer, and I was like, that was so cool. And then I have my headphones on, and you're standing on this rock. It's this great kind of cutscene thing. And you've probably seen the trailer if you've seen it. And these two ties come from behind you and fly right over you, and then you see them fly. Like you hear all of that. Like it's and like it was like like they even had like a shaking effect in the audio, and it's just like I'm standing on that mountain. I am a Jedi. Like it was so cool.
Nice. All right, let's dive into role playing because this is something that I think we're both all very excited about. Role playing game, strong category this year. Disco Elysium, Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3, Monster Hunter World, Iceborne, and The Outer Worlds. These are 5 incredible RPGs that are on this list. And honestly, where I would have to say if I was going to just jump in and answer for myself, right now it would be personally a toss-up between The Outer Worlds and Final Fantasy XIV. It would really just depend on the experience that I'm going for. Julie and I have been playing Outer Worlds together, through Game Pass, and I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed like playing every moment and exploring the world. But it's not one of these games that I easily see myself coming back to over and over and over again. It is an experience that you have, and then in my mind you move on. So easily my vote would have to be for 14 because it's something that like I have been playing this game for so long, and then the payoff has been so huge for me. I'm gonna toss it to Taylor. RPGs. There's a couple. I mean, just really big ones. Anyone stand out, or anything from your past this year?
This list is essentially my list of the next games I'm playing. I haven't played them. Outer Worlds is the next game that I'm playing. I haven't played any Monster Hunter ever, but I've been super excited about this one. When you do, you ring me up because it has the multiplayer aspect, and I'll jump back into Monster Hunter. I'll jump back. Chris
Skill Up put out his review, and he does a great job of pointing out that what is unique about Monster Hunter World is the chance to experience surprise and delight in the mechanics as you go. And so while it does have a multiplayer component, he encourages you, and from my time with the game, I would say play it the first time by yourself.
Well,
don't let somebody else's knowledge of the fight take away that moment of whoa.
It's good advice because my most frustrating gaming moment of 2019 is Brian's fault. When we tried to do that one level in Destiny 2 over and over and over again. You keep saying that, and yet I have not gotten it. You have completed it. I have not.
We just gotta text me. We just gotta put something on the schedule.
If you get stuck on something and you wanted to share it with somebody, do it to it. But like Monster Hunter is just one of those games that you should not look up anything about. Just go try it. Like just try it blind. I think if you're like, well, I don't want to try a game blind without knowing what it's about, they did a really good job. They called it Monster Hunter. That's what it is. Like that's everything you need to know. That's all it's ever been. And Monster Hunter World is a great chapter in that franchise. 14 has to take this for me. But this category, if there are 2 categories on this whole thing that if you are looking for things to play next year to get into because you missed them, and this is kind of your give it credit, this category is like if one of these you skipped, consider picking it up.
I'm thinking about doing Kingdom Hearts 3 after Outer Worlds, namely because they're coming out with some DLC in February, but they're bringing in to Xbox the whole collection. So I think because the DLC actually finally features Final Fantasy characters and Kingdom Hearts 3 didn't, and I was like, that's what I was playing. Like I always play for more of the Final Fantasy over the Disney, even though my girls would really love the Disney aspects. So I think we might have to play through the kind of the whole series and get to 3 when it's complete with the DLC. We'll have to see how that all comes together.
Was Nier 2019?
Nier technically is 2017 for PlayStation. 2018 for Xbox.
Okay.
And a truly phenomenal game. Like honestly, obviously not nominated this year, but it was definitely nominated.
Do you think WoW Classic deserved to be on the list? It's not new content, but it is a new experience.
I think it's a new experience for a lot of people. I think WoW Classic could easily be rated here. Would you vote for WoW Classic over 14?
No, I just think that this category, like the fact that we limit it to 5, implies that everything else than that is not deserving of being your favorite moment of the year. And I think that this category in particular, at least, I mean, maybe that's just because we're biased towards role-playing games, but this category feels like it could have been a lot bigger and it would have still been just as tough.
Okay. All right. Let's jump into our performance category here. What they have nominated is Ashley Birch for the Pravarti House from the Outer Worlds, Courtney Hope for Control, Laura Bailey for Gears 5, Mads McKinslin from Death Stranding, Matthew Portella from Control, and Norman Reedus from Death Stranding. It's so fascinating from an acting and how we've been able to go and capture and bring in some of the some very big talent into the kind of the gaming category, both for voice and for even movement acting. Taylor, I already know who for me wins.
Yeah, so like Gears 5 is one of the biggest games that I played and I loved. And like, if you haven't played that story yet, like Kate's story is so impactful and there's like huge twists and she acts that so well. Like you absolutely feel the joy, the pain, the hurt, like you feel it all. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, Laura Bailey, voice actress there, absolutely, hands down. I 100% agree. I was like, her experience, incredible. Chris, do you have anybody who kind of really stands out to you?
I mean, I've played Gears 5, I've played Outer Worlds, and I played Death Stranding. I did not get a chance to touch Control. I would say that Norman Reedus, like Sam Porter Bridges, really is what the world is kind of shaped around, and like it's such an instrumental part of Death Stranding, and it's so immersive, and the voice acting is part of that sound. It's part of that. You just feel like you're in it. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't even make sense. Like as you're playing it, you're like, I don't understand what's going on. But that's a Kojima thing. Like you even get to the end and like, I didn't finish it. And I had a friend tell me kind of how it ends. And he's like, I don't really like, it didn't end. It just kind of is like, and that's it. And it kind of still makes your head spin a little. And then you get a chance to kind of go back and experience it a little differently. So I would have to put it there. I don't think I voted in this category because I hadn't touched Death Stranding. I didn't feel that strongly about the others.
That's fine. All right, so now this is I think it'll be interesting. I know I don't know if people are gonna like my choice here, but for ongoing game, obviously Siege isn't on the. Oh no, actually Siege is on the list. It got cut off on my monitor. So we got Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Let's start with Chris. We've got obviously we voted for 14 as kind of an RPG moment. Does it come back and take that for you? I don't know if you're like, I don't see WoW Classic. Would you put WoW Classic?
I cannot believe WoW Classic's not on here. Like it is the definition of ongoing game. The category is defined as awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time. Like that is WoW Classic. It's such an incredible nod to the community. The community asked for it for years, and they were like, you think you do, but you don't. And it took the passion of knowing some of the people that worked on the team for WoW Classic. It took the passion of those people to bring us a pretty incredible experience. But all of these are good. So if you're not playing any of these games and you're looking for a game that gives back to its community, these are all great ongoing games. I could put Halo 5 on this category. Mm-hmm. It's a really old game, and I still play it every week, and it's still wonderful. They've done a great job supporting it. So I would say 14 takes it for me, but any one of these being the winner, I'm not going to be like, well, how did that happen? Like that, it 100% makes sense.
Taylor.
Finally, a category that I've played 4 of the 5 games.
There we go.
I can't stand Apex. That's my hot take for the day. I think it's a really dumb game. I think it's real dumb. A lot of my friends.
Let's get the Apex community coming in, and they're like, work together. There you go.
Yeah. So like obviously like Siege is my favorite online game of all time. So that's easy. But Destiny 2 and Fortnite were both games that I was done with, and their content this year brought me back in. I've been very much enjoyed playing Fortnite again, and it kind of recaptures that kind of like initial love and like that initial fandom that like everybody had 2 years ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then Destiny 2 Destiny 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. And so like when Destiny 2 kind of ended, I was like, that was strange. Like, it was good, but not, it didn't recapture the magic. And like I went through and I've now played all of the DLCs during this year, even though they didn't all come out this year. I've played them all, and it's got me back, and I love like the Destiny experience again. So this is a hard category for me. I think I'd have to go with Siege just because it's where my hours have been. How they've changed the ranked rules. It helped me get ranked. I finally got gold rank, and I'm really excited. So
congratulations on gold. For me, I would have to say Destiny 2. That what they've done over the course of the year, where Final Fantasy I think has been consistent and getting better, especially since 2.0. It's like when you look at just the enjoyment that I've had with the overall experience, when it comes down to it, what game that I was done with that decided to say, you know what, okay, let's fix this and come back, and I'm just like, yes, like they've done a lot of the things, they fixed a lot of the core problems, and they've, for me, reconnected with the magic. And that's something that's just been truly impactful, being able to play with you, Taylor, being able to play with Chris, being able to play with the workforce and have kind of a growing Destiny community within the work to game channel and environment, having our clan hit cap. PvP is really big for me. And this is just a game that I wish we could get off of Halo 5 and go to Destiny 2 PvP. It's like that would be ultimately like, what would be the Christmas gift to Brian? Great, this is great. Let's do some customs, because custom games are there, because they've got so much going on with the game itself that it just is a joy for me to log in and play. And what's fascinating is that on Stadia, like ultimately I default to that platform now for Destiny 2 if I'm not actually if no one's on to play with, because it's so fast for me to load in and just get into content. So when I'm downstairs, if I've got 15 minutes, I fire it up, do a match, and then it's like, yeah, that was good, and then I got to go back and live a life of an adult in this case. So yeah, Destiny.
All of these are great.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, all of them are fantastic.
Apex shook the world just coming out of nowhere. Fortnite has redefined the way the outside world looks at gaming. 14 came out with possibly what'll be one of the best expansions to an MMO in this decade. Destiny 2 revitalized something that we thought was dead. Siege has an incredibly passionate community. They have all made waves, and I hope financially they're all at least experiencing success, so that they don't need an award to know you're crushing it. Mm-hmm. Just keep going.
Except for Apex.
It's a very Apex for Taylor. I like Apex. I think it's enjoyable. It's one of the games that I wish I had more time to play, because I know my brother spends a lot of time playing Apex, and he loves it. And he always is like, I haven't spent a penny, and I've spent hours in this game. I'm like at some point, man, toss him some bones. I don't know. Narrative. This is obviously games telling a story, and there are a bunch of really good games on this list here that they've got. A Plague's Tale: Innocence, Control, which there's obviously some Control news. It sounds like it's coming to a certain game service that we all enjoy. Death Stranding, Disco Elysium, and The Outer Worlds. Let's start with you, Taylor. Out of the narrative games, obviously I know you said you hadn't played Outer Worlds yet. Have you played Control? Is that one of the games that you've
I haven't. So my take on this is I've never heard of A Plague Tale: Innocence. Chris, that's your turn.
I hadn't heard of it either. I think Outer Worlds was what I voted for, and I would change that to Death Stranding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an incredible world, and it doesn't tell you a story. So I was bummed 14 wasn't on the list, because it's an incredible story, but the story is the same. If we talk about it, it'll spoil it, because it's a movie, right? It's a 40 to 80 hour movie that you're playing through, and you're going to get the same experience as I did, whether you play it when it launched or tomorrow or 5 years from now. It's the same movie. And you'll have your own take on it because you're a different person than me, but it's the same movie. But Death Stranding, the way the players interact, he sets up a world and then says, here's your character, go. And if you want to know more about that character, that's on you and that world. And it just immerses you. And it just tells a story in a way that you become that story. And that's so much deeper than just having a good script.
Man, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting my hands on with that game when it comes
Do
to
it.
PC. I think if Control comes to Game Pass, I'll totally take a crack at it, because I do enjoy Remedy games and how they put together things to. And it seems that people are really enjoying Control. I keep hearing more and more about it. It seemed like it just kind of came out of nowhere. Personally, like it was like. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you should play this. Oh yeah, you should play this. And it's just more and more people, I guess, that it was kind of a slow burn where it's like, okay, it's building up. But I think if I was going to have to vote, it'd be Outer Worlds. That's what I've spent the most time with. That's where I'm really enjoying kind of the humor and the narrative. But I'm also just kind of enjoying, this experience and that I've been able to have with the game itself. And especially because, again, like it just, for me, like it just makes Game Pass seem like something that I can't live without, because there's always new stuff that seems to be rolling into it ultimately. Did you have a vote, Taylor, or was that something you were just like, it doesn't have to be from this, like any narrative games you played? Star Wars? Like
Star Wars. Like Star Wars is almost my answer for everything. And I'm confused why it's not on here. But like even when you said like the December stuff, like it came out a few weeks ago. So I don't know.
They had to vet. I mean, they had to get all this stuff set up and then allow the voting, and then they allow the press to vote. And so it's a whole process. So I don't know when the exact cutoff date is, but if it's after that cutoff date, it would likely make it for next year.
It seems really strange because it was November 15th when the game came out, which is strange because it's like that's still like big blockbuster for 2019. Like I get the timing thing, but it is really weird to be like, I guess it's the opposite of Cars. It's like this was the 2019 game of the year, even though there were better games in 2019. And Cars are the opposite. It's like you could buy a 2021 Kia right now if you would like. Even though we're a year and a half away. So.
It's like, yep, we went to the future and we brought it back 18 months ahead of schedule.
Right.
The moving into the multiplayer games, because we do have a lot more categories to go. We might have to skip over some of these esports ones. The multiplayer game of the year, the nominees they have are Apex, Borderlands 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Tetris 99, Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Chris, you're shaking your head.
Not even close.
I wouldn't vote for any of these.
Not even a ballpark. Like it just, the fact that they left Destiny 2 off, the fact that they left WoW Classic off, the fact that they left 14 off.
Smash Brothers.
I know you can the fact that they left Smash Brothers off is insulting. I don't know why a Call of Duty game belongs up there at all. I mean, they're fine. They are exactly what they are, but they're never groundbreaking. And the category is defined as for outstanding online multiplayer gameplay and design, including co-op, massively multiplayer experience, irrespective of genre or platform. It's not even, maybe Apex belongs up there. Tetris 99 did some unique stuff in kind of bringing an old classic into a multiplayer world, but like, why is Borderlands 3 up there? Why the Division 2, I guess, was great. I don't know.
It was great when it launched. A lot of people it's just like, okay, it's just like what
it was all right. I played it, like I enjoyed it. My time playing with my friend, we played co-op, but we only lasted like 5-6 hours because we were just like, this is repetitive.
Well, and beyond the repetitive nature of it, it's like I think where it succeeded was where Anthem failed. A lot of people were really excited about Anthem, and it just didn't have it. And in the Division 2 felt so much more polished, which would make sense because it was based off of a game that's already been out. And that's where I get frustrated when we start labeling twos on things. Destiny 2 the same way. Like, if we're gonna make a games as a service as a persistent game, just commit to it, and like they want to go and put that box product out. And it's like, I think people are ready for that. Back even to the sports thing, like who cares if it's, MLB The Show 21, just make it like MLB The Show and just update it. I'll pay for it. Like, just give me the game that I've been working on, and you can kind of do more things like that, because they're not really revolutionary with sports games. And so the same kind of thing here. I think Apex Legends would take it for me personally out of this list if I only had to select from here. Best multiplayer game though, personally. The fact that Smash is in here, and the fact, I don't expect to have Final Fantasy XIV on every category. I don't expect WoW Classic on every category. WoW Classics
not on any.
I know, it's not even here. Like, it's just like, okay. It just seems like that's really interesting. It feels disconnected from what people are actively playing.
That's not just us. It shook the whole internet.
Yeah, it did shake the internet. Check. Is it a part of the Games Awards? No. I'm gonna skip over mobile game. Go ahead.
Now, wait. So on
All right.
multiplayer, like, why can't that category? Why does that have to be limited to
5.
games that came out this year, and not just look at what made an impact on this year?
Yeah.
Like Fortnite with the Booga win is huge for gaming. Whether you care about Fortnite or not, Fortnite's not my favorite game. But to say that a player won a $3 million prize pool turned a lot of heads.
Yeah.
League of Legends still rocked out this year. Grand Theft Auto 5 rocked out this year. Hearthstone has continued to impress even among all the drama. Like these games still have an impact. I don't know. I just think that as a category, I think that if you're talking about multiplayer, you have to say like, what is impacting the most people's lives I think the whole category is faulty.
Yeah, look at, I mean, like essentially what y'all are saying is that the category we all raved about, which was ongoing games, actually is the list of best multiplayer games.
Yeah.
You know, because
Probably.
like
to be ongoing, you have to have multiplayer. Like it is like, oh, you're gonna update this a single player game.
So I could see how they split them, but like I think they just need to word them differently, right? It's like best ongoing multiplayer, best multiplayer that launched in 2019.
That's new, yeah.
Right, and it's
Drop
like
Apex down.
Right. Yeah, it makes more sense.
Push 14 up. I get that.
All right, let's see here. I'm gonna skip over mobile game. I'm gonna skip over independent game. Sorry, like unless either of you have really strong thoughts.
Untitled Goose Game's incredible. As an independent game, like it's like $20. Just put it on your Switch and just prepare to have your day brightened. Give it 20 minutes. Set a timer for 20 minutes. If you're not having fun, maybe it's not for you.
It's cool from the independent side to see Disco Elysium on here as well as for RPG and more. So that's really impactful, and that has me really wanting to go check it out. I think that's kind of the point as well, is that these things can also kind of bring to light and raise up games that might have gone unbeknownst, just in terms of coverage and information. They have a games for impact category, and none of these games, I've only heard of Life is Strange. I haven't heard of any of the others.
It's a woke category. It's straight up. That's all it is.
Oh yeah.
It's they're trying to thank you for making something thought provoking and having a social message.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in itself should be its own kind of reward. I don't know that you should award it, because I think that it's kind of like giving out the most humble award or the most to charity award.
Right.
Like it just kind of defeats the purpose of it. If you want to have like an honorable mention of some kind and just like a loose category, but having it voted on just starts to make it seem like who's, vote for your favorite NGO. It's like, I don't know. The whole category feels slimy, and I'm sure these games had great messages, and it just feels, and I won an award for that.
Taylor, do you have any thoughts on that? Because that in and of itself is almost its own discussion topic. Woke category of the year.
Well, yeah, I didn't play any of them. I've heard of 2, and one of them is like a spiritual sequel to Journey, which I thought was that was game of the year a couple years ago, and I hated it. I hated every minute that I spent in Journey. So it's like, oh, you don't understand. You're like, you're right. I don't, and I paid for it, and I regret it. So I don't know.
Are these kind of games like are replacing kind of the like Myst and the kind of the adventure puzzle game perspective, or is it more like are these more like narrative games in regards that are just trying to separate themselves into its own category?
The category is about social impact. It has nothing to do with game style.
Well, for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. Okay. Well, there we go. We'll just I haven't touched any of that.
That's just my personal thought. I think that the messages get cheapened when you start to put a medal on it, when you start to put an award on it.
My vote would be Gears 5. The social message is kill demons. So
kill the monsters. Protect yourself. Game direction. We've got Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, Shiriko, Shadows Die Twice, and Outer Wilds. And honestly, I think this is a competitive category right here. When we look at the direction of the games, I continue to hear positive things about Control. Death Stranding has been we've seen the mix, and actually Chris and I talked about how even people in the community were like, it's a bummer that you guys didn't play this. And we were talking about it. We were talking about it with our YouTube manager, and he's like, do you want to play Death Stranding? And we were like, I don't have a PlayStation. Chris was like, and now it's like, dadgummit, we probably...
That was a huge miss. So,
let's start with you, Chris, on that, because you were your praise for Death Stranding and just having very little experience with it already, like, but having experienced it has blown me away this entire time. I'm just like, oh man, that's
it's an 80-hour playthrough. I've got maybe 10 hours in it, but they're 10 hours spread across someone else's save. So I've been jumping in on his game at his house. And it's wonderful. Sekiro has been praised. So, I mean, I would say that Sekiro probably, the question is like, how do you define this category? Like, so it's defined as awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. If it's directing a game that like shatters the way we think, like, is that the goal, or is it you delivered what your fan base was looking for? Is that the goal? You know, like, I don't understand. I guess I don't understand what the intent of the category is. But
I would say, like, if you think of game direction as the director of the year from a movie perspective, like, what studio really nailed the overall game direction? So they, like, whether the game's like personally fun for you, like when you talk about like when we summarize the narrative and the gameplay, like direction in and of itself is like, who do we feel best executed on the vision for the game itself, you know? And so like I don't see any games here, like you would say, I wouldn't say Kingdom Hearts 3 because that game took for over 10 years to come out, and it shouldn't have done that. Like it could have been the game of the year, but from a direction perspective, I would say absolutely not. That'd be how I interpret the category. But go ahead.
I think in that vein, then Death Stranding did the best job executing on a vision to deliver something that we didn't expect, and to deliver it well and on time. And Kojima products are known for also aging very well, so that'll be something very interesting to see how that ages, because it has I'd call it a multiplayer component-ish, and it'll be interesting to see how that ages when popularity dies off. I would give it to them. It's just, but like, I'm not saying it's the best game for everybody to try. I think it's an incredible game to go take a look at, but it's a very Kojima game. There are going to be people that log in and are like, I hate this. But it delivered on, just like I think it's important for us to note how important that Fortnite win is, even if you don't like Fortnite. I think that it's important to note what Death Stranding did from a player interaction standpoint, from a world building standpoint. There's just some incredible things. Without spoiling too much for anybody, the way players interact with each other is mind-blowing, because it's not a multiplayer game, but you are definitely connected with other players.
So Taylor, what do you think on that as well? So, because like that's one of the things, it's not multiplayer, but it's asynchronous multiplayer, right? So it's like you're constantly just like, okay, but one of the games I really liked, and the sequel didn't really kind of hit on it, but it was the Lord of the Rings. Like they had that kind of asynchronous multiplayer you could find, and kind of interact in ways like somebody was like, your buddy was killed by this orc, and then you're like, I'm gonna go avenge my friend, and it was still like that asynchronous. So I thought, when I heard about that for Death Stranding, I thought that was impressive. But Taylor, what do you think from a game direction category?
Yeah. So it's interesting because like Death Stranding, like I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and Death Stranding is one of those games, like Chris just brought it up. It's like, I'm either going to love it or I'm going to hate it, like with everything that I know about it. So it's another game that like, I'm not going to pay $60 for a game that I'm 50-50 on whether I love it or not. So I'm waiting for it to drop. Like, and I know I've said that way too many times. Sorry, everybody, if I'm a missionary and I don't have a lot of money. Thanks, Brian. But like, so from an outsider's perspective, like I've heard a ton of people talk about Control. I know that it's a game that I'm going to love, but like, what's interesting for me, like the game that I would vote for here is I've followed Resident Evil 2 a lot. And I'm not a horror game person. I will never play it. Like I just don't like horror games. They don't sit well with me.
I love them, but I'm not going to play them around my kids. Right? There's just like, okay, if I'm going to play a game, I just can't. I'm not going to do that yet. But I'm really excited because they also have 3 coming back out. Anyway, continue.
Right. So yeah, like they just don't sit well with me. But like I think for me, when it comes to like game direction, like Death Stranding came out of nowhere. We're comparing it to nothing or to things that he's done before, but it's really its own thing. Control is
That's a really good point.
Is new, and I'm excited to play it. But the thing for me with Resident Evil 2 is like I've been able to watch, as an outsider, I've watched a lot of the like YouTube videos, the comparison to the old one and the new one. It's just like for me, it was like a huge, like, this is how far we've come in gaming. And it was just phenomenal to me to see. Most of the time when I look at, like, like, this is what it looks like on the Xbox One. This is what it looks like on the Xbox One X. This is what it looks like on PS4. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, they look the same. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 2 do not look the same at all. And I've just been really impressed with, I mean, obviously it's an old game, but I've been extremely impressed with how well it looks.
It's fascinating. That's a really good point. For direction in and of itself, I know the internet's going to be like, Shariko it probably is going to vote for that. In fact, even Death Monkey in our chat right now is saying, in before Shariko says that, and he's voting for Death Stranding. Like, I really want to get onto that. I honestly have a lot of respect for how Control and Remedy kind of puts their games together, and so honestly, if it is true that it's coming to Game Pass, that might be something that I have to kick back and enjoy come January, ultimately, because it's like, I cannot sit here. Oh God, like, this is the hardest list for me to pick if I was going to have to pick a winner. I've played through Resident Evil 2. I love how they did it and updated that. I haven't played through the new one, but I'm just saying that I would have to go with Capcom easily on this one. It ultimately would be that, and that'd be who I vote for. But gosh, that is actually probably one of the hardest categories outside of the full gaming of the year.
Yeah.
So we talked.
Destiny 2 deserves an honorable mention. They don't deserve to be nominated to win the whole thing, but it's a huge shift.
It's a big risk. Like, this is.
It's a big risk.
Yeah.
It's a big jump that they took, and the fact that the game is still online, like it's like, whoa, like, way to land it. And I think based on Taylor's definition, I would say looking at Final Fantasy VII for next year will be intriguing.
Yeah.
I found this on the web.
Oh, he found something on the web. All right.
Final Fantasy VII. This just in.
Hey, it's got an exclusive for a year, so it's like the 7 is going to be exclusive PlayStation, and then PC, Xbox, presumably. I'm fine with the timed exclusive. I'm fine with that. I think we'll have to get Chris to play that, and then I'll pick it up either on Xbox or PC when it's no longer exclusive. Okay, this is for me a category I'm really excited about. Fighting game.
Fresh indie game?
No. Fighting
Sponsored by Subway? I don't eat at Subway, but if they had an Untitled Goose Sandwich, I would go get one.
Oh my gosh. It's funny you say that, because I want, that just confirms it. The title of this episode needs to be Untitled Goose Podcast, because you said at the beginning that we're going to be all loosey-goosey. You just made an Untitled Goose Game joke. I just made one. It's got to be it.
It is. Okay, I need to make a note of that, so make sure that I do not forget, because I will post it with that. What was the name? The
Untitled Goose Podcast.
Untitled Goose Game Podcast. Perfect. I want to talk about fighting games. Like, we can cover the sponsored by Subway Fresh sandwich, but I'm sorry, I still think of something, like, and I'm not going to talk about it here on the podcast. Anytime I think of Subway, unfortunate PR blunder for them. Fighting game of the year.
All they said was it's going to help you lose weight. They didn't say it was going to make you a good or reasonable person. So the fact that it blew back on them is not their fault.
No, but it's. Can you appreciate the comedy of any of the of Bill Cosby, right? Like, I have.
Oh, if they helped cover anything up and stuff, then yes. And
I don't think they did. I'm just saying that there is a connection, right? Like, you, no matter what, get connected into something, and it's like.
So should we not eat pudding then?
I don't know, maybe not, but that's going to be up to everybody's individual interpretation. I'll take bread pudding, but other than that, I'll just pass. Fighting game of the year, guys. This is what I want to talk about. So we've got Dead or Alive 6, Jump Force, Mortal Kombat 11, Samurai Showdown, and Smash Brothers Ultimate. I love fighting games, and I don't really get to play them right now much. And hopefully, as my kids get older, that will become something that's more prevalent. So Taylor, are you a fighting game fan? Have you played any of these games?
This is what's interesting and why it's the clear winner. I'm not a fighting game fan, and I love Smash Ultimate. Yeah. I literally bought it for work because I work at a lot of conference booths, and it's a big attraction to come and play. People want to come play Smash, and I was like, I don't really like Smash. I've never really gotten into it. And then here's what happened. I got home, and people at the conferences were like, oh, you don't have any of the characters unlocked because you haven't played. So I was like, okay, I'll go home and I'll play for work, and I'll get some. And then I was just like, now I have all the characters. I've played it for countless hours. My kids love it. I'm having so much fun. with a game that I haven't had fun with since like the 64. So I'm loving it.
Very cool. Chris, how about you?
That's how I feel. I mean, the category's always been one that like I've always done it in like I show up to a house and people are playing it type setting. It's never been something I choose to do with my own personal time. And then Smash came out and like I lost sleep. I was late to things. Like I was like, well, I'll just do one more. And so, you know, if a game is good enough to be disruptive, if you're not disciplined, that's a sign that it deserves to win something. It hasn't really been nominated in anything to date. We got I think it's nominated one more time after this, but I would love to see it win something, and to see it win fighting is 100% fair. Its only limitations are the Switch hardware.
Yeah.
Like any issues with it is not the game.
I would love to see Smash being kind of one of these games that just like, okay, great, you can play it on your Switch. Oh, you want to play it on a high-end PC, and oh, you want to have like an amazing network connection that's backing it up, because you create a room and your friends can join. Like it would be like, hey, let me just invite you. Let's just play. Yeah, its limitations are Nintendo than anything else. Some awesome games here. Mortal Kombat 11. It'll be interesting to see with the algorithmic shifts with Kappa if we start to see more people being drawn into that kind of as a fighting game. It's the lowest performing metric according to Susan and Game Theory on YouTube. But you know, it's got that violence. Samurai Showdown's a lot of fun. I've been playing that with Julie on Stadia. Really loving that game. For me, like if for anybody watching, like, hey, what does Brian really enjoy fighting games? Soul Calibur. It's like Soul Calibur and Street Fighter are like, feel like they're baked into kind of who I am as a fighter. Smash Brothers Ultimate easily takes the cake. Like it's like hands down just the best game that has, I think, it just has come out in the last year alone. And as a fighter, and then as everything that they've got baked in, and all the different crossovers, like it is the kid. It was me walking around on the playground in elementary school, dreaming of, wouldn't it be cool if Mega Man and Sonic and da da da, you know, like it literally is that playground. And they continue to add and bring in new characters, genre bending, defining. It is a love letter of what it means to be a gamer and what it means to be a video game. And
would you say it possibly deserves game direction?
Yeah, hands
not big
down.
Enough?
Oh yeah, that, I would say like
we didn't bring it up, but
no, because it's like you're 100% right. Like it's the execution on it is fantastic, and that's just where I'm gonna go with it. Anybody have any final thoughts on
before we move on to the Nintendo category?
Yeah, just the family game. All right, cool. Let's do it. Taylor, family game of the year, Nintendo game of the year.
Irrespective of genre or platform, as long as it's released by Nintendo on Nintendo products. What is the family game of the year?
It's so funny that the category is not then sponsored by, you know, like sponsored by Nintendo. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I think for me it's Smash Ultimate. The interesting one on here is Brian. You told me to buy Yoshi's Crafted World.
Yeah.
My son thoroughly enjoys that game. I can't stand it. I think it's so childish and boring, but I'm playing it because I need to be a better father than I am. So Yoshi's Crafted World, if it was for made me a better person, Smash, if it was because I enjoyed it more.
Yeah, like I'm going to answer this category in a couple different like mindsets. Chris, go ahead.
I think I would probably give the award to Luigi's Mansion or Yoshi's Crafted World, and I would move Super Smash Brothers down into the Destroy a Family category, along with Mario Party and Undercooked. I can't name two more. I'm sure they're out there. And I think that category also is incredible on the Switch. And it can just make you want to like throw each other through a coffee table. Like, and it's so fun, but it's just that very like, you know, game board flipping moment. Like, this is ridiculous. I didn't even hit you once, or they just took all my stars. What do you think, Brian?
So easily for me, as a parent, Yoshi. Like I kind of default to that. And it really depends on like when I say entering it, like so the family like sitting down with Annie and her able to play the game and have a good time. Absolutely there. We level it up to Mario Maker 2. And that's something that explores the creativity with like Maddie and her age, right? So that's kind of like where those two battle it out. Ultimately, obviously, Smash Brothers, because Annie can play that. We can put her into bot mode. We can just hand her a controller. So there is like you can kind of have that like I tweeted something out and you're like, and Taylor's like, you've been apparently practicing lying to your children for so long. And it's like, I have a whole strategy because like it was about the van. So the context is that our friend John got a van and they have like the shows in it. And I told the kids, like, the car has to drive for an hour just to charge up the DVD player so you can watch it. So that way they're not asking us every time we get in the van for 5 minutes, hey, can we watch a show? Hey, can we watch a show? And he's like, I see that you're going to let them like hate you later because when they learn that I've lied. I was like, oh no, by that time I'm going to upgrade the van and it's going to have a feature in which that, we can watch it whenever we want.
He's such a good liar. He's planned out the depth of the lie.
Don't lie without an exit. You learned it here first.
It's like, you need to know. Like, don't just
we said during the family game conversation.
Oh. How do
Have
you lie to your
seen his
children?
daughter's levels from Super Mario Maker?
Have you seen him, Taylor?
I have not. No, yeah,
Brilliant.
really.
It's like she has a goal. Like she actually finally learned that she can block the flag and you'll never win. And I don't know why.
It's so dark. It's like, but how do you win? And she said, you don't. And then she just started laughing.
She's like, this is just like your life. You think you're getting somewhere, and then you just get blocked and have to turn off.
And then she's like, go get me another sister. And I'm like, no. You do not get to decide that. But no, so like,
and yet she did.
Oh, she got a brother. So it's like she's still waiting. She wants. The girls want another sister because they're feeling now that they're evenly matched. So on that though, like, so she also built this level. Like, it's like you start in and you have half a second to react, and it's all these bullets. Just like, and I beat it. Like, and I beat it on stream. We got a highlight and it's posted, and it's just incredible. And it was just, I was like, I got to the point where I was like, oh. If I get this, I hit this jump, and it's like you start thinking the way through. I love her level designs. Outside of the fact that she blocks the flag, when she blocks the flag, I get like, no, you can make it as hard as you want, you can make it as crazy as you want, and I'm gonna try it. But if I get all the way to the end and I can't touch the flag, like that's not fun.
You're grounded.
Yeah, it's like you're absolutely grounded. Oh gosh, so as far as it goes,
you can't open your bedroom door for an hour until it charges up.
I need an exit lie, a plan for that though, because that sounds cruel. That sounds like somebody clips that of this podcast, and that becomes like if we ever become like bigger than we are, and it's like, oh, that's dark. No, we do not support that. The Super Mario Maker 2 versus Smash. I think Smash takes it ultimately as the family game of the year because I think it speaks to a wider range of ages and play styles. But for those, like, if for parents, anybody will be watching that, Mario Maker 2, absolutely for its gameplay and its creative element. I love toys that allow you to create. That's where, like, we don't do Minecraft here at the house, but I expect that could be something that we do here at some point in that regards. So that would be that for me. I'm gonna skip. Do y'all want to talk about esports?
There are a bunch. So like, I think just esports in general got a whole bunch of stuff. So I don't know if you guys have any strong opinions. I've already mentioned that I think that the Booga win is a big deal for gaming. I think that the Hearthstone stuff, while it doesn't deserve an award, was a big deal for gaming. Content creator, I can't imagine summing the content creation down to 5 people. I can't imagine dropping it to 100 people.
Bearded Blevins wins. He takes it.
It's a global community. And
I love Bearded Blevins.
Imagine.
I really do love John. I love his work. It's fun for me.
Audio design, I think that could have been combined more with sound. Community support. It's hard to rate a community, and give an award out to a community and a company's involvement in shaping that. So I would say we jump all the way down to either the Samsung art direction or action adventure.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to say let's go with we have art direction, and so we have an interesting one on this list that's added, and that's why because you see some of these obviously brought together. Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening is added to this kind of list. Where over kind of the other presentations, you still see Control, Death Stranding, Gris, Shinora Wild Hearts, and Shuriko Dries Twice. Does anybody here have a vote? Because
you've said that word differently every time.
Welcome to work the game. Like people are like, oh, just say it the right way. Like I wish my brain would process it that way. Like honestly,
Sekiro.
All right, go ahead, Taylor. Do you have an art direction game of the year? And this is sponsored by Samsung QLED.
I don't have a Samsung. I don't have an opinion. Back to you, Chris.
I think, I mean, it's supposed to be for technical achievement, and like, so giving it out to a game, I don't know. I don't feel super strongly about like anybody having shaken the way we see games and the way we view games. I would probably lump that more into like, I expect that to come more out of like a true technical thing. So I expect that to be more of a platform thing. So what does a piece of hardware enable us to do personally, when it comes to like the ability to really move the needle forward? I mean, occasionally a game does it. I don't know. I mean, I enjoy the way these games look. I just don't know that they like moved us forward. I think it was just another year of beautiful games, and it's iterative in nature. So of course 2019 will look better than 2018, but I don't know that we just took a leap.
See, I would, for me, Zelda would be. I loved the look and feel of it. Like it was so surprising. At first, I was repulsed by it. I was like, and then it's like, that looks really good. Like it was this really interesting, and Nintendo does that. Like when I first saw Wind Waker, I was mad because they originally showed off like, here's the game, like the GameCube, and it's going to be like just as powerful as Xbox and PlayStation, and then they just like hard pivot into this cartoon, but then it's like more expressive, and it actually I think holds up to the test of time far better than any game of that generation. You know, and so that all of a sudden it's like sometimes art appreciation and their direction isn't something that is just getting us past the uncanny valley and making it so visually appealing, but it's something that that lives forever. And I think when I look at the Zelda, like whether it does or it doesn't, you know, that it ultimately is going to be something that like in years past, it's going to be something that holds up and really ends up differentiating itself. And more. So that's going to be my vote. Let's move on into action and adventure as we are way over time. We'll pick a couple more. Let's say action adventure game, action game, and then game of the year. I think that we got three more.
I mean, action adventure. You guys already know my vote. Like,
okay, so
it's Borderlands 3, Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, and Secure.
I literally thought he was just voting for Borderlands 3. He's like, guys, you already know my vote, Borderlands 3. Like, wow, that's a turnaround in one hour podcast.
Of course, I'm voting for Death Stranding.
Yeah, Taylor,
what do you got, Taylor?
Yeah, so I don't understand the difference between action adventure and action, but that y'all can tell me that later. I don't have one for action adventure, but for action game, I absolutely loved Gears 5. I loved the story, completely immersed in it. That's my winner for that.
Yeah, Gears 5 too. Hands down.
Action adventure combining combat with traveler and puzzle solving. So it's also about the way you interact with the world, as opposed to action is just focused on like the combat of it, the actual like mechanics.
I just feel like that's still Gears 5.
They're super close. Why do sports and racing have to share? And then these two get to like divide themselves out.
Right. Yeah.
So then in the action game category, we've got Apex Legends, Astral Chain, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Devil May Cry 5, Gears 5, and Metro Exodus. All right. I want to go with Chris because we don't have a...
when was God of War released?
God of War 2018.
It was 2018.
I'm still impacted by it. I'm like...
I played God of War and Spider-Man this year, and both were last year. And like, to me, that was this year. And like, both of those games are two of the best games created this decade. And it's like, well, I want to vote for them and I'm not allowed to, and I'm upset.
I say vote for whoever you want to vote for. And we'll get better at this thing. Like next year, we'll be like, all right, guys, this is what they recommend. Screw those lists. Here's our list, etc. I think for me, like if I was gonna say from kind of that action game that I've played, Gears 5. I'm a huge Gears head. I feel like that's kind of biased. I know I keep picking them, but that game is just phenomenal. I lost September to Gears. Like, oh hey Brian, how's this coming along? Like, are you still playing? Like, I literally someone's like, are you still playing 14? I was like, I know I will. But I'm trying, like, I hit cap, I re-upped, like, I did everything in that game, and I just could not stop playing it. Like, I was just, like, every moment I could, turned off the gore and everything, so I felt like I could at least somewhat play it around the kids, without getting in too much trouble or just, like, traumatic, they're outside playing, but it's like, if they run in here, I'm not going to see, like, they're not going to see somebody getting sawed in half. something like that. But I was like, gosh, I lost September to Gears 5. And hopefully I'll play some more of it soon, because I don't know. That game is oddly special for me.
Did you finish the story? I know last time we talked you hadn't.
No, that's on my backlog in that regards. Like, that's the thing. Like, when I say I lost like the whole month, I was like, I had a hard time going. And so how I've always played Gears games, like this is true for 5. Like, I'll finish the story in 6 months, meaning like I go into the multiplayer, and then eventually I'm like, okay, I'll go and do the story. And I don't know why it is that way, but I even tried to like, okay, I'm gonna do the story, and I was like, every time I log in, I'd be like, versus.
It's so good. It's so good. You've got to finish it. I know. I tell you this for months. It's so good.
You need to come in. We just need we need to get you your Outbreak perfected, and then once we do that, then we switch over, and you're like, that's it, Brian. We're now doing Gears 5 until bedtime, and we're just gonna get you through the story. That will ultimately give me that's how I do it. It's a social thing for me. Like, it's so hard to because Julie isn't interested in that, and because it's a social thing. Like, I'm like, who is going to come along this journey with me? Guys,
that's what we played for like maybe 30 minutes together, and it was funny because I had already played it. So like, you were playing the action sequences, and I was just getting all the collectibles to like make you stronger. I felt like such a good person.
You're a good friend. A really good guy to game with too. Game of the year, guys. As we've gone over time, we want to like wrap it up with the biggest game of 2019. The nominees that they've got are Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2. Shituku 2, Smash Brothers Ultimate, and Outer Worlds.
Shituku. Like, how do you look at that and say Shituku?
That's probably 90% of the comments that people like to leave me. Like, Brian, like...
Arikas. Now you're just reading stuff backwards. So, when I look at Game of the Year, I think of the sticker on the box and what it means long-term for the health of that game. And it helps prevent a game from being forgotten. It helps keep that game something that when it's down the road and it's in the used bin at GameStop, somebody goes, oh, this is probably good. So it's a really hard thing to give out. I think that of these 6, I don't know why were they always 6?
Yeah,
no,
they have. They increased it because for Game of the Year,
they just jumped from 5 to 6 for the last few categories.
Yeah, I think they said
action adventure gets a total of 12 across action.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Game of the Year. I would say the one that will be the longest impact. That if you don't have it, people are just going to stare at you, and if you never played it, they're just going to go, "What do you mean you never played it? You mean like not in a while? Oh, not at all. That's alarming."
Yeah.
I would say
a gamer?
is probably Smash Brothers out of this. I think it's a bummer that the idea of some of the others here being lost to time, but I would have to give this to Smash. Out of the 6 they named, I don't know what else I would name. It's a huge award to limit down to just one game.
Yeah, for me, like this, like just because of how I play games, and I'm the year later guy, I would whenever we do this again in 2020, I will tell you my winner of Game of the Year from these games.
I hope this will be a reoccurring thing. Yeah,
because like I will have played all of them except for Resident Evil 2. Like literally, like Control. I own Outer Worlds already. And Sekiro, what did you say? Shitoku? Shitoku Shadows Live Once. Like I'll be playing that. I'll be playing Death Stranding this year, and I'll be playing Control this year. So like it is really weird that Game of the Year is like my most anticipated games of 2019, which is what we did a year ago. But whatever.
That's why we got you. That's why we love you. For me, if I had to stick with this list, Smash Brothers would be it. But if I was going to go off list, I'd say Final Fantasy XIV. Shadowbringers by far is just one of the games that has just defined, what it means to be a narrative-driven story, what it means to deliver on just the world and the lore and how I connect in with that. And so it's going to be a game that in 5 years, I'm going to, in my mind, still be playing unless they, I don't know, shut down the servers or come out with an even better version. Go ahead,
the only reason I disagree with you is because I think Game of the Year is a category that like it should name a game that if you haven't picked it up you should, and there's still a large barrier to entry for Final Fantasy. So expecting somebody to jump in is still, what is it, 400 hours right now?
Yeah.
To
I'm
play
not
from
saying
a
that
brand
I
new player.
expect
So it's
somebody to
not.
jump in.
Boy.
I would say that with the free trial, not the 400 hours, mind you, but with the free trial, I think that everybody should. And as this game comes to, well, I'm just saying Final Fantasy. I said Final Fantasy 14. I didn't say Shadowbringers. I would say that with the free trial, with the game coming to Xbox, that as like I would think that people should at least try it out to see if it's something that resonates with them. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I have no judgment for somebody who doesn't like the game, because it's not going to resonate with everybody. But that's just me. Like, that's just where I fall. Like, what game obviously did I spend when I look at Game of the Year, what game did I spend the most time with? And that would be Final Fantasy. Now,
Sure.
Second up would be Gears 5. Third up would be Smash. Fourth would be Super Mario Maker 2. Fifth would be Pokemon. So it's like I look at it kind of a time investment. Like when I sit down to play a game, like what am I going to do? And then the sixth would be Destiny 2. And it's just because like I haven't got like all these. Feel like all these obligations with breeding and multiplying. That's like, hey, what am I going to play? And it's like, that's kind of how it's going to be. And each one of those that I feel like I listed all have a multiplayer component. Like nothing for me, like, is that pure individualized experience. And that's something that like maybe when, I have more free time, those are the kind of games that kind of return for me. But right now it's like gaming is my social experience. So who am I having it with? Because it would be Final Fantasy XIV with you, Gears 5 with Taylor, and then playing games with my kids. Like that is just where I am at as a parent. And so from an art form, like, yeah, I totally agree with you, but I just look at it how it impacts me individually. I cannot wait to like you said, Star Wars not on this list. I wonder when the cutoff is. I'm really excited to go hands-on with that and hopefully get that experience over the holidays.
I've compartmentalized that thing. It'll be there for next year. The downside of it being lumped in with next year's is that now it has to be nominated so long after it released.
Yeah.
So you have the same thing with like the Oscars, where like you will have cherished it for hundreds of hours and then already put it down for multiple months before they go into nominations. And so there's some of these games you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't played that in a long time, but I did like it. Oh, that was this year.
Mm-hmm.
So games that are at the beginning of the time window really struggle. So it'd be a bummer to see a game that I think deserves a lot of praise, especially because everybody just assumed it would come out and be poor. And it'll be interesting to see how it does next year.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with like next gen coming out. Like it's going to have to compete against.
It's going to have to compete against Halo. Well, I guess like depends. Yeah, next gen drops in November.
Halo Infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
That's going to be a tough category. Taylor, where can people find you? Plug yourself, dude.
Yeah, ForteCatholic.com. I run a weekly podcast, and I travel the country and speak and all that kind of stuff. But I'm primarily on Instagram and Twitter at Taylor Schroll on both of those things. I post pics. I just did the live stream of me shaving off my 21-month beard, so that was fun.
Chris, where can people find us? What are you working on, man? That you can share.
Yeah, we've been working on a lot of stuff. We're starting to kind of move to longer form, higher quality content. So hopefully you guys are feeling a little touch of that. But we've been making moves. And in general, like next year, we're talking about taking the podcast to possibly twice a week. So for any of you sticking around this long, down in the comments, why don't you put 2 for 1 in the comments just to see how many of you are actually still around. And we'd like to do that. So we'll see kind of where that goes. This is the last podcast of this year. And then we'll be starting up at the beginning of the year with the plan of going kind of twice a week is the intent. We've got some kind of plans for how to handle the fact that we haven't booked that many guests. So at least out of the gate, we won't have 2 a week booked. So we've got some plans there.
The first podcast we got scheduled kicks off with She Heals, I Tank. We've got them scheduled for the 15th. And then we actually have
it's pronounced Sekiro.
Oh, you got me good on that one. And so then we actually have guests lined up every week through March right now. for the podcast. So we have a ton of things that are exciting. We even have some really big guests that we've had on. We've got some really big guests that we haven't had on that are coming on. And we got some little smaller guests that we're working to schedule ourselves around with as well. And it's just like, yeah, it's good. I think it's going to be a really fun year. And then ideally for the podcast as well as that second one, you know, we've got some ideas. We got some things to kind of try to make it more interesting and kind of more fulfilling. But if you, I'll still around, be sure to check out our podcast highlights channel. That's where we're posting up clips and stuff like that from the various shows. And so we've got that rocking and rolling. All right. We plugged everything. We've talked about the games. Thanks everybody for hanging out live with us. Thanks, Taylor, for joining us back again. We're going to get you back on the show again, as always. For Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
And I'm the guest.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you watching and hope you guys have an amazing day. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and see ya in 2020.